What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dabrunski here, and it sounds like Faith now finally has a competitor, with the new rumored that Riker just teased it will be released in patch 2.4, and that rumored is Mist. I'm going to cover everything that I think you need to know about this rumored, its cost, the individual attributes on the rumored, as well as my overall thoughts. So I do hope you guys enjoy this video. Again, a quick reminder before we jump in, just want to let you guys know that I do stream twice a week on Twitch, so any follows on that platform would be very much appreciated. Got the link for my Twitch channel in the description below. That being said, guys, let's jump in. So there is a lot of stuff that I want to cover for the rumored Mist. The first is sort of where it fits into the other high-end expensive rumoreds for the Boazon. Now, I do want to say first, this is not a cheap rumored. You can tell looking right off the bat, Cham, Shale, Gull, Thal, Ith. Cham and Gull are, well, Cham's definitely high rune, Gull is kind of borderline approaching, but it's definitely not kind of a budget setup like Melody, for instance. But in terms of where it fits, talking about the existing bow runes that we have, Ice is typically your go-to for cold damage, and of Justice, arguably the best for fire boa, and then Faith is your physical damage boa setup. Whether you're going multi-shot or strafe, Faith is the best, lots of enhanced damage, and the Fanaticism Aura for ED and increased attack speed. Now this is where things get interesting, because I think that Mist will be a top-tier choice for either hybrid setup, so if you want to maximize fire and cold damage, or if you want to go either multi-shot or strafe. Now I haven't crunched the numbers, but there's a lot of reasons why I think Mist will be a popular choice for physical boa setup. Now, if we're looking at the stats, the very first thing that I want to talk about is the level 9 concentration aura when equipped. First off, I think this is really cool because there's only one other rumor in the game that grants a concentration aura, and that is the rumored Pride. I'm really glad that they decided to introduce concentration aura to Mist, because I was shown these rumored cards a while ago, and they were kind of toying around with the idea of a level 4 to 9 resist cold aura, and I really wanted them to introduce the concentration aura because I just feel like resist cold would kind of relegate it to sort of being a Wrath and Brand, kind of two other bow rumors that nobody ever makes. Now the level 9 concentration aura is actually very similar damage to the level 15 Fanaticism aura. It provides more damage to your party, but a little bit less to yourself, so it is very comparable in terms of raw DPS. Now, in addition to that, it does grant +3 to all skills. This is where I think it'll make a very good bow choice for hybrid setups, because if you roll this in either a Grand Matron bow or a Matriarchal bow that has +3 to bow skills, with the additional +3 skills you get on Mist, that's a total of +6 to the bow and crossbow. So +6 to Freezing Arrow, +6 to Immolation Arrow, very good. I mean, +6 to like multi-shot or strafe. Even though that's kind of different, plus skills is a lot more effective on elemental bow builds than it is for physical. That's kind of beside the point. But I do think that that plus skills will be overlooked. And then it does have 20 IS, so that's really important. The Shale rune does give it 20 IS. It's not as much as Faith. That's where it's going to come down to very select gear choice. I haven't kind of crunched the numbers, but I'm sure you can still reach a very high multi-shot breakpoint, but I'm pretty confident that with this current setup and the right bow, you could still hit the max IS breakpoint with strafe. But here is the big standout stat with this bow, is it has a 100% piercing attack. This will provide some flexibility in the skill tree as well as gear. So usually an endgame Boazon setup will have 1 or 2 or 3 maybe hard points into pierce, and then you'll pair that with the item Razor Tail, and that will grant you 100% pierce. And that is really important for multi-shot or Freezing Arrow or Immolation Arrow. The more that those arrows are traveling through targets, it's better, you're doing more damage. But having a bow that grants you 100% piercing attack will provide some freedom with gear slot choices in your skill tree. So if you're going a hybrid setup, that saves you investing skill points into pierce that you could put into either Immolation Arrow synergies, or Freezing Arrow and Freezing Arrow synergies. Now they did mention or hint on reducing the cooldown time on Immolation Arrow so you can spam it. So that's why I think hybrid bows will be a little bit better, spamming Immolation and Freezing Arrow. But I just think it's really interesting. You could use Arachna's Mesh Belt if you wanted an extra plus skill for a hybrid Boazon setup. You could use Nosferatu Coil if you want a little bit of increased attack speed and Life Leech. There's a lot of different options now than kind of your standard using Pierce and using Razor Tail. That's really cool that they're kind of breaking that meta with this rumored. Now, as far as the rest of the stats go, very solid enhanced damage roll, 327. We're not really sure if maybe it's a varying roll. I mean, it could go all the way up to like 400, I'm not sure. 327 makes me think that it's a varying rumored roll. I don't think they would just have a pick like 327 as like a flat ED number. It does have 9 to max damage, 20 bonus attack rating from the Gull Room. Cold damage, and then freezes target. Freezes target is an interesting one with the Chan rune. I kind of got to play around with this a little bit with an Orden setup using Hand of Justice and a Phase Blade. Freezing on target, if you can strike a monster quick enough to reapply that freeze proc, you can actually completely render them immobile. So this might be an interesting setup with Strafe. If you're just freezing everything that you're hitting with arrows and Strafe, you might actually not take any damage. In the last two stats here, we have 24 to Vitality and 40 all resistance. I think the 40 all resistance is the real big standout here because when you're using a lot of endgame BOA setup stuff, like Jeweler's Archon Plate of the Whale with increased attack speed and enhanced damage jewels, or the same thing with Artesian, Faster Realm Walk, 15 IS, ED jewels in a circlet, you're really kind of sacrificing other beneficial stats like res. So the fact that you get 40 on the bow with a Torch and an Annie, or even Fortitude, that should kind of help counteract some of the poor res issues that Bozons typically suffer from. And then 24 Vitality, that's just a nice stat. Extra health is never a bad thing on a Bozon, that is for sure. Now, if you haven't noticed yet, this rune word does require 5 runes. Now, I think this does have some advantages and disadvantages that I want to talk about. The first, in terms of disadvantages, is, again, they did allude to this during the dev stream, that they talked about wanting to kind of buff up and make Act 1, Act 3, and Act 5 mercenaries stronger. Again, if Blizzard's watching this, I hope you're adding auras to the rest of the mercenaries. They did hint on Act 1 rogues applying a stronger attack versus fire arrow and cold arrow, so maybe it's like immolation arrow and freezing arrow. So this will pair really well with the mercenary that's shooting freezing arrow constantly, because that 100% pierce, again, shooting that freezing arrow, it's going to be traveling through monsters, freezing everything for great crowd control, and might be decent damage if they buff up kind of damage of the Act 1 rogue. But the big standout kind of red flag here, and it's not really necessarily a red flag, but a 5 open socket rumored means that you can't roll it in a great bow, because that is typically sort of great bow, or there's another one, I forget the name of it, I think diamond bow. Diamond bow and great bow are typically kind of like your go-to choices for rolling rumored Faith for an Act 1 mercenary. The fact that it's now a 5 open socket rumored means you'll have to use a Hydra bow. Hydra bow does have a high strength and dexterity requirement, which means you kind of have to play around with the body armor and the helmet on the Act 1 rogue to make sure that it can actually equip the rune word. That's kind of the downside, I think, to a 5 open socket rune word. But the upside is that if you drop an enhanced damage, superior attack rating Grand Matron bow, if you go to Larzaket, or same with the Matriarchal bow, if you go to Larzaket, it will give you a guaranteed 5 open sockets every time. So that's kind of the upside, is that it will be easier to roll the rumored Mist in a very good superior base than it is to roll Faith in a superior base, just based on the number of sockets. Faith is a 4 open socket rumored, Mist is a 5 open socket rumored. So that is kind of the big plus side or upside to it. But overall, I feel like this will be a very interesting rune. We're gonna have to do a lot of testing in PTR and a lot of like crunching numbers and figuring out what's the best. But I could see this being a very viable choice for a freezing arrow or immolation arrow setup, or even a strafe setup. Might not be able to get the max IS breakpoints and multi-shot like Faith, but overall, very, very impressed with the fact that Blizzard is trying to address and give Bozons like a little bit of an edge with a stronger rumor. But again, let me know in the comment section below, guys, if you guys agree or disagree, or if you think I missed anything major. Do you think I kind of touched on the majority of the talking points? Really excited to use this one, and I do want to hint that there is some other more powerful rune words that are coming as well. So patch 2.4 should be awesome. But if you guys enjoyed this video, if you could throw a like on it, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. Post new weekly content on YouTube, and I do stream twice a week on Twitch. So any follows on Twitch or subs on YouTube would be amazing. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day, and I'll catch you all in my next video or live stream. Peace out.